Welcome to another episode of On the Couch with myself, Henry Jennings from Marcus Today. And in this episode, I am absolutely thrilled. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Adam Dawes from Shaw & Partners, Senior Investment Advisor around there. Are there any other titles that you've got in your name, Adam?
No, I think that's it, Henry. We should be calling you the Earl or the Duke of
The Duke?
the Duke of the North. Which one's higher, an Earl or a Duke or the Lord?
I think a
We'll,
Duke.
a
I think a
Duke.
Duke. Yeah,
We'll call you
lordships, they give away lordships like they're, smarties.
we can call you the Duke of the Northern Beaches.
Well, that's a very nice thing to say, but probably very inaccurate. But anyway, let's get on. Most of you, as listeners, will be very familiar with Adam's work. He is a familiar face on Ausbiz, CNBC. You were looking great on CNBC, I have to say, the other day. Looking very fit
Thank you.
and tanned and rested, I guess, from your
Yeah.
break. You had a nice
Yes.
break.
I did. It was lovely. I stayed in Sydney, and Sydney's a
Mhm.
fantastic spot when everybody else goes away. It's amazing,
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So
It is always good. I always like that, I must admit.
definitely.
So, just before we kick off, as always, this is general advice only. So, please do your own research. Contact your own financial advisor regarding any other thoughts, ideas, or insights in this podcast. All right, Adam. Well, we've given you the big rev up, and
Yeah.
it's now February, so we're well into the year. I'm not really sure where the year's gone, and of course, we're into reporting season. How's the year been shaping up for you so far? What are you looking at now, and what are your themes, I guess, for 2025?
Well, look, I think certainly, and look, February and the reporting season is obviously in full swing. So February reporting season, I guess, is a crucial window into corporate Australia's health. And with companies' specific performance taking precedence over macro conditions, and I think that's the key. We've got so much issues with the macro side of things. I don't know about you, Henry, but I wake up every morning going, okay, which way are we going to go? Are we going to go
I know.
left this way? Are we going to go right this way? Where are we going to go today? And
I know.
the executive orders are coming thick and fast. And the best one today was getting rid of paper straws because
Yep.
he wants the plastic straws to come back.
Yep.
So, as a learned, as a viewer of the market and understanding the market, I find it difficult. I don't know about you, but I find it very difficult to make some kind of investment decisions when each day things are just moving backwards and forwards. So,
Yeah.
I think it's really tough. I think the focus has to be maintained for companies that are driving good margin growth, and that's where I think we'll start to be looking for this reporting season. But as far as the year's shaping up, it's looking pretty good. Markets are somewhat volatile, but still, it looks like we're not seeing any major disasters out there. So I'm pretty comfortable with how the year is starting. Let's fingers crossed we end higher for the year. Is my call.
Yeah, I must admit, I've taken kind of the view that things are happening so fast in the US. I noticed last night, not only the plastic straws coming back, which I wholeheartedly agree with. I think that's certainly the best thing he's done so far. But also, he nominated himself as the chairman of some high-profile arts board, and then basically replaced the whole board with appointees that he'd made, and then all the artists started resigning.
Right.
So, it's extraordinary. I guess the pace that he has slowed down a little bit. He's sorted the war out in Ukraine, he's sorted the war out in Gaza. He's now going to make that into some sort of Riviera destination, which certainly is going to be high on my list
Yes.
of destinations to go to. I can't wait to do the Skyscanner there to fly into Gaza for a Trump experience. But it's. I think you just got to keep your eye on the horizon. He's pro-business, tax cuts,
Yes.
and deregulation in the US, which I guess is good for the US, and what is good for the US tends to be good for the market, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I'm sort of trying to ignore a lot of the noise, and that's what I think it is. It's just noise. And so by trying to ignore that and trying to get into how businesses are going and how companies are going and how things are going to work, I think it makes it a little bit easier for us to plan or at least somewhat have a strategy moving forward.
And we are locked in now to reporting season. So we're recording this on the 13th of February, and we've had our first Super Thursday. How's the reporting season gone so far? I know there's been some pretty big volatile moves
Yeah.
in some of them, and they've gone pretty well. Some of them. How's it looking for you?
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking at that sort of the health of businesses going forward. JB Hi-Fi, reported some stellar numbers on the day.
Mm.
It was up in the morning, but then got smacked in the afternoon. So for something like that, I think you've got to keep an eye on that consumer discretionary space. Obviously, we've got the bellwethers, which is the financials, industrials, which I think the financials we saw yesterday with Commonwealth Bank. I even had my neighbour come up to me and say, "Gee, what a great result Commonwealth Bank had! They made $5 billion in the half." And I said, "Yeah, but that was only 2% above the previous corresponding period." He was like, "Oh, well, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Well, it only grew by 2%." So there's lots of talk out there of these fantastic results, but you've got to deep dive, and that's what you and I are here for, Henry, to do that deep dive and get some sense into some of those numbers.
We are renowned for deep dives, aren't we? We are like the rest is history podcast people.
That's
We
right.
do deep dives like nobody else. I got to say, one thing that I was impressed with the Commonwealth Bank result yesterday, and I think Chanticleer in the AFR was spot on,
Mm,
was the amount of mortgages that they are sourcing through brokers. Now, 75% of mortgages now are sourced through brokers across the board,
mm,
but CommBank is really sort of generating those mortgages and the mortgage growth through in-house the applications and the platforms that they
yeah,
use, which I think is pretty impressive. Given that if you're going to have to pay brokers their little slug for the mortgage, and Commonwealth Bank isn't, they are certainly got a bit of an advantage there. And as I wrote this morning, Commonwealth Bank is a Rolex stock. It does the same as the Timex, but it's quality.
yeah,
It's quality,
yeah.
and there's a reason why it's a Rolex and not a Timex. Anyway, what about yesterday? We saw Bavura and Computershare. Did you have a look at those?
I had a look at ComputerShare. Don't do a lot in Bravura. ComputerShare look decent. I'm just a little bit worried about interest rates if and when they do fall,
Mm.
and how those bonds are going to perform for ComputerShare. But I think today, it's just been a stellar of a stock going forward, and I think with the international shares, which ComputerShare is, it does have a lot of international earnings.
Mm.
The sharp deterioration in the Aussie dollar does sort of lay another level of complexity across those earnings, and potentially it's going to be a little bit tough around those currency transitions and impacts going forward.
Mm. I mean, talking of the Aussie dollar, and one that's been very much bashed on the head recently,
Mm,
despite every analyst ever never being bearish on, is CSL, and it's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? The Vifor numbers were better.
mm.
The bearing numbers on the blood transfer, the blood plasma were pretty good, but the vaccines were a bit of an issue. Did you have a look at CSL at all?
Yeah, I sure did. And again, that was one of those ones that was up in the morning, but then heavily sold off in the afternoon. So
Mm.
I don't know if that's international buying or selling coming in. They sort of wake up, see the numbers, and then change the sort of the portfolio transition or change the way it's going to look.
Mm.
But I thought the result wasn't too bad. I thought that was. I've actually been buying some yesterday and today around that 255 level. I picked a couple up for yesterday, and I bought some more this morning.
Mm.
Uh, you could say that CSL has actually underperformed over the last 3 years,
I'd say they've been a dog, actually.
okay, I was being nice, but
Well,
yeah, those EPS revisions. Or those earnings per share revisions are down around about 3%, so that's reflected that in the share price at the moment.
so what's the attraction when you talk to clients? You say, hey, look, you should be buying CSL. Is the attraction based on the price or the fact that it's underperformed, or is it the hope for improvement in, I guess, the margins with bearings and Vifor, and maybe a bounce back in vaccines in the US?
Yeah, vaccines was probably one of the tougher spots. Yeah, I think it's the price definitely. I think it trades quite comfortably in that $250 to $300 range.
Yeah.
It has obviously moved higher and lower from those points. So yeah, I think it's more the price. think it's a good quality. I mean, it's a blue chip, good quality business, got lots of volume. All of those things do come into that. I haven't started to look at taking profits in ResMed. I'm very, very comfortable with that one. And so we've still got a good healthcare exposure, but I'd still like to add to CSL when we get these dips.
You know that you and I differ somewhat in our views of ResMed.
Yes, yes. And who's been
And
right since?
well, I think we both have, to be honest.
Well, that's a
I'm
very
going to head.
diplomatic answer, but yes,
Well,
okay.
I think it is. Well, you've been very bullish, and I was very bullish when they got to $23, $24, but not so bullish when they got back up to $35.
35, 38.
So and slightly more bearish when they got to sort of 39, $40. So I still have issues with the ResMed business model, but they are doing pretty okay. But
Yep.
it was interesting to see that the US kind of slowed down a bit and the rest of the world was doing a bit better. I don't know whether that's because the whole of the Americans are on GLP-1, Ozempic, or Wegovy, or Manjaro. Uh, it's certainly
Take your pick.
take your pick.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could. So, as far as standout results go, are there any this season so far that you've gone, wow, that was an absolute cracker, and I need to have a look at this. This is going to outperform by a country mile for the next 6 months to a year.
Well, it was interesting to see Evolution's result yesterday
Mm,
as well. Evolution, you'd think it'd be bulletproof with the gold price where it is, but it just seemed to lack a little bit of foresight. And then with, I think one of the founders is leaving.
yeah,
Um,
Jake.
right. So again, that's that kind of stuff where I'm a little bit cautious on. Macquarie had a decent result as well. I thought that was one of those
Did
those.
you?
I thought that the diversified financials. We've been putting a lot of money into MAF as well. This is sort of a little bit off topic here, but
Yeah,
we've been
no.
putting a little bit into that. Not Married at First Sight, Henry. It's MAF, which is the old Molus. But we've been putting a lot of money into that one, and that's looking really good above 7. We were sort of buying them at 5, and that's
Yeah,
been pretty good. I think the insurance sector, which I hate, but I think the insurance sector is going to look very, very good. Premiums are going to move higher. The one that I actually was really astounded by was the media side of things, and Seven West Media and
yeah,
Channel 9.
yeah,
Really surprised
yeah,
on that side for me. A little bit concerned about the technology sector. I think that's definitely run pretty hard, and I think you just got to be a little bit cautious there. And
yeah.
even some of the little telcos, Aussie Broadband, starting to tick up a little bit more in there as well. So there's been a smattering of those companies in there that look good, and I think that there's still going to be some more there.
Mm.
Though I think you'd be cautious on the Woodside Santos energy side of things. It was the most disastrous sector of last year, down 20 something percent. I still think that they're going to lag this year as well, and that's going to be a tough one going forward as well.
Right. It's funny because I look at Macquarie at the moment, and the numbers weren't particularly stunning. They do tend to, um, you know,
Second half.
do we like second half stories? But they
Yeah.
do seem, they do, under promise and over deliver traditionally. But this seemed
Yeah.
to be under promising and a bit of under delivering as well. And then clearly they've got, Nick O'Kane timed his exit
Mm,
absolutely beautifully as far as
mm,
the commodities business goes. And the other thing I guess that slightly concerns me is their push into green and clean and that sort of the infrastructure side of things, where clearly, Monsieur Trump is not such a fan of green and clean. In fact, I even saw last night that Nigel Farage, or Farage, as he may be called
one of
more,
your most favourite humans.
one of my most favourite humans. I had the honour of meeting Mr. Farage some years ago when I was in the city in London. And a friend of mine is very close to Mr. Farage. He's now going to put some sort of tax on wind farms and landholders that actually use wind farms as well to negate UK energy. So, you kind of look at Macquarie and think, well, you've pushed into all this green and clean, which is all very commendable, but there's been a bit of a pushback from the US and the UK, where you're big. in this sector. So I'm just a little bit ho hum on Macquarie. I know that every man and his dog loves it, but yeah, I'm
The
just
other
a little
the other
yeah.
side for me was that they don't need to sell assets to maintain the balance sheet, right?
No,
They are very well capitalised, and I think
yeah,
that CET1 ratio was at 12.8 or something like that, which is probably
yeah,
better than even our big four banks with that, with what's going on. So I just thought that they gave to the industry, or they gave to the market, that we're capitalised. Yes, these green energy or these green businesses are coming, or they've taken a little bit of a hit, but we don't need to sell anything, and we're quite comfortable. And overall, the ASX 200's earnings forecast is going to grow at a meager like 1.4%. Macquarie's definitely growing their earnings at a faster rate than that. So again,
yeah.
it gives me that confidence to be able to continue to be holding that. And I suspect, Henry, you still have a lot of Macquarie shares sitting in your back pocket.
If only I had, Adam.
Ah,
If I had,
ah.
I would not be sitting here with you today. I would be sunning myself in the Garzon Riviera as we speak. So no, I unfortunately, I did have quite a lot. I
Mm.
won't even. I don't actually.
No,
I don't even look
don't.
at how much they are worth now
Yeah,
because it's just too depressing. But yeah, I did have quite a lot, and now I have zero. But
right,
that's life.
right.
Now, just going back to Santos, one of our members was saying that on the call the other day, you were actually a bit of a fan of Santos as opposed to negative on Santos. Have you
Yeah.
have you changed? Have you changed in the last few days?
No, I haven't changed. I think overall Santos is a very good company going forward. In context to that, it was on the call with Jumbe. There was 8 other companies that were all dogs. They were all dogs. And finally,
Unusual,
oh yeah, finally we had one company that I was like, yes, okay, I can talk about this one. This is yeah.
right?
So that's the context. Look, Santos overall, I think it does have a couple of levers within the Alaskan assets. I
Mm,
think overall, it's going to be tough for Santos as well as Woodside overall. I think most brokers have got sort of positive price targets of sort of 740 to 750. That doesn't give it much uplift from where it is today, but it does show that I think the worst is over for Santos, and they've got a couple of levers that they can pull. So I'm comfortable with the oil and gas scenario, and Santos obviously, if we do get any appreciation in the oil price, Santos is definitely leveraged to that oil price and should do better than potentially most of the others.
you know what I think is holding Santos back, and I think they would rally quite considerably if this
Mm.
happened.
Mm. What's that?
Kevin Gallagher,
Yes, yes,
he has been
yes,
there for
yes.
donkey's years, and really and truly, we've got Elliot, who's an activist shareholder in
In there.
the US, stirring the pot at British Petroleum.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be nice if someone stirred the pot at Santos and said, you know what, Kev, you were '07, it's 24, it's time to go, move on. Let's get a fresh set of eyes at the helm because I personally I think that has been holding them back and has made them into the somewhat canine nature of the performance of the share price that we've seen. Even when oil was good, they weren't good.
Yeah. So
Um,
it's been increasingly frustrating for everybody. You're not
yeah,
speaking out of line here at all. It's been a horrible story and really hasn't done much.
no,
Um,
no,
so
I'll probably
yeah,
get cancelled.
the context was that I actually had a good stock to talk about, so I went for it.
Well, it's good. I know the problem. You go on Ausbiz and you go on the call and you get a bunch of absolute stummers and dross that you think, really,
Yeah,
am I going to have to talk about this one? And there's nothing good you can say about them. And you got an hour to fill. It's not always easy sometimes.
yeah.
Talking of ones that have been interesting to say the least, you and me have both liked Southern Cross. That has
Yes,
been in the kennel.
yes, it
Um,
has.
and remains very much eating its pedigree chum. Um, what do you think's wrong with them, if anything, or is it just the market doesn't give a blind hoot at the moment?
I'm not too sure. has the market moved on from that story? I'm not too sure. Um,
Data centers.
mm, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, I saw lots of upgrades this week for Digico. Certainly, it's moved on from the next DC story, hasn't it?
yeah.
Which is one that I've hated for many a long year, and I should have kept my hate for that one. I've always worried about the constant demand for cash from investors, and I hope that that was kind of over, but it hasn't been. But yeah, SXE Southern Cross has been a little bit disappointing. So, all right, well let's get some words of wisdom from you, and rather than the boring stocks and then a gem like Santos standing out, what are you recommending at the moment? What stocks do take your fancy? You've talked the insurance sector, which is interesting given the IAG numbers that are out today, and the stock's been absolutely poleaxed
Yeah.
on the back of that, dragging the rest of the sector down. Is there any other stocks and sectors that you look at and you think, oh yeah, that's where I want to put my clients' money. That's going to be the winner this year.
Look, it's been really tough because where do you chase the money? You can't chase the banking sector. I think it's been tough there, and I can't put in. Though I'll go back to that MAF Financial.
Yeah,
It's a mini Macquarie. It's a credit lender to that mid-tier space where the banks don't touch. And
yeah,
so I do think that one does look really good. We've put a lot of money into that moving forward. So I'm really, really comfortable for that. So where else? I've been doing a little bit. We've done a lot in the uranium space, and that's been tough for us due to what's happened with DeepSeek and those kinds of things. But we do still feel that uranium space does look quite good. So the likes of Paladin, but again, we just had our analysts come back from Africa and looking at some of those positions there, and he's very, very bullish on that story.
a jolly,
A jolly, did I say?
yeah, yeah, jolly to Africa.
Oh,
That's a nice one. I noticed that he wasn't the only one there because I read some research from one of the other broking houses the other day on the
yes,
uranium sector as well.
yes, they're all
So there
there.
was obviously clearly they were all there on a jolly, which
That's
I get invited to jollies and I get to go to the CBD of Sydney, not Namibia, on a
I know,
safari.
I know.
Jeez, what are we
Yeah,
doing
well,
wrong, Dorsey?
we just got to get our inoculations up, and then we can go. So we should be all
Mm.
right. So where else? Look in the small space. I think did I talk to you last year about EIQ? I've
Yeah, you did.
yeah,
You did.
28 and a
Heart.
half, looking
Yeah,
okay. So
yeah,
the AI in the healthcare space, I really like that, and I really like data businesses. Not the data centers, but the data businesses. Nuix has had a bit of a slip from fall from Grace NXL.
yep,
We've reduced our price target from 7 to 5.75, but I really like that. I think data is the new gold. Data is the new oil of the 20th century, and I think data is something that is going to be more and more mined and is going to be more and more valuable. So I do like
yeah,
that space, and I'm really interested to see how Live 360 goes on their report.
right.
Please be good. And that's something that if there's any slip up there, I would definitely be putting some money into that one.
It's funny, isn't it? We're as human beings, we're surrounded by data and computers and data centers. God, it's just mind-boggling how
Yeah.
much data is out there. Is it just in danger of becoming just a commodity, and the real winners are going to be those that can actually manipulate the data and use the data properly? I know, you look
Yes.
at Meta, which I think is up 18 days on the trot
Wow.
on the way its AI is helping in terms of Facebook. I've got to say, my Facebook feed is full of absolutely random rubbish at the moment. So their AI is clearly not working on me
Right.
because it is just complete tosh
Mm.
in terms of some of the adverts and some of the sponsored material that comes up, but still the stock price goes up. Um, I was going to ask you, how do you approach reporting season? You say you're keeping your fingers crossed basically for Live 360.
Yeah.
How do you de-risk ahead, or do you just suck it up if it's bad and try and look through that and try and look for the positives and see if the story's still intact? It's
Yeah.
it's not an easy time, is it?
No, it's not. And so something like Evolution, we did a bit of work a couple of days before the result, looking at the
Mm.
business, understanding, trying to get a handle on how it's going to go. We took a little bit of profit for clients that were in profit for Evolution. Some of the numbers that were coming out were we thought were going to be great, but the story had already run. Like
Yeah.
JB Hi-Fi, the story had already run. It had done a very good, or done a lot of heavy lifting. So we're not going in on the result. Yes, you got to suck it up and see, because there's really not much you can do once the result's out, because then the stock's going to open and it will be what it will be. But I
Mm.
want to take advantage of those oversold positions, and that's what reporting season I think is for. Higher volatility, but we've got cash sitting on the sidelines. You like the business, you've done the work on the business, the market overreacts, which we know it overreacts to the upside as well as the downside. There's no this happens regularly,
Mm.
and for us then it is then taking advantage of that overreaction to the downside to pick some stocks up, and pick some stocks up at a good price to move forward. So that's how we look at reporting season, is taking advantage of these mispriced opportunities.
Yeah, I must admit, I've been a fan of Evolution for a long time.
Mm.
I like Mr. Klein. I've met him a couple of times, and he's a very, very shrewd operator. And I think, I was talking, on the back of those results, it'd probably be right to take some profits, around 640, 650, which is where
Mm.
they were,
Yeah.
which has worked okay for the time being. I guess the negative of the result, which was quite a good result. Northern Star also a good result. I'm looking forward to Newmont as well, because that
Yes.
was my stock tip for 2025, and it's gone pretty well so far. Um, I guess Jake's sort of stepping away from being exec chairman to non-exec
Mm.
chairman, and more involved with the pumped hydro project, has been a bit of a negative and kind of overshadowed to some extent that result.
Mm.
So maybe that's why they're down a little bit more. I was going to ask you, because I had this really interesting. I had a really nice dinner actually with Andrew Wyland,
Oh
who
yeah.
you know very well, DP
Yes.
Wealth Management, and we had a lovely lunch. And he was telling me how much he's using AI in his business. Is that true for cutting edge stockbrokers like yourself?
We do use AI, not for investment decisions, but we
Right.
do use AI for producing content.
Yeah,
Right. Sorry to say that, Henry, but
that's all right.
that's where we're at. We do sort of use that to produce content and put emails out to clients.
Yeah,
We run it through that checker.
yeah.
I think AI has the ability to complement your business or anybody's business. You just got to learn how to harness it. And I think that's the problem at the moment. Nobody's really understanding how to harness that business. I know
Mm.
there's other people that use recordings of meetings, and then using AI in there to then produce the notes, to produce a statement of advice, those kinds of things.
Yeah, this
I,
is what he's doing. It's
yeah,
amazing. He even uses it. This is what I found fascinating. He even uses it so the AI has its own checklist of points that he has to cover when he's doing a client meeting, and if he misses them, the robot comes around and slaps him on the wrist.
right.
Yeah, which is a bit of
I
a
think it's a
plot
little bit
twist.
impersonal, and
Mm.
when I have a meeting with a client, I know that it doesn't follow a certain structure, but I know that I've got to get my points. Do you understand the advice? Are you okay with this? I've got to get to that, but sometimes
Do
it
you want
doesn't.
red or white?
Steak or chicken, but
Steak or fish?
but but besides that, I still have to tick those boxes. But I do feel it's quite impersonal to
Yeah,
have that kind of AI overlay, which
yeah.
I like the conversation to flow naturally and clients to feel like they're getting something out of it. But I do
Mm,
understand that it is going to become more and more integrated into our business. And
mm.
if it saves us time and it saves us money, not to get sued because we did miss something, I think it will be beneficial in the long run. But we're not to that
Yeah.
stage yet. And, I did see something from a couple of the PR people, and she'd put up a deep fake of herself, and you couldn't tell if it was AI generated or not. I mean,
I saw that one.
I
Was
forget
that
the
from Leeds?
yes, that's exactly
Yes.
yes. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was quite interesting to see that come
It's
up.
good deep fake.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I like it, and we're going to have to use it more. I'm just a little bit struggling on how we're going to integrate it into the business.
I must admit, I've been using my friend ChatGPT, who I call Hal. Um, it actually gets the joke. I did try the same joke with DeepSeek, and oh my God, it was weird. It got
Right.
very weird very quickly. We ended up talking about whether hot dogs were a sandwich and whether ketchup or mayonnaise was better on hot dogs. I don't know how we got there. Um, and and really, I'm not sure I want to go back there. But
Yeah.
I've been using ChatGPT as an alternate to Google, because you don't get the ads, and
Yep.
it actually gives you the answer.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
how many cars does the US sell a year?
Yeah.
It
Straight
just gives
away.
you the answer. Whereas
Mm.
Google gives you the Reddit, the Pinterest, the sponsored content, and then Google also has all its AI content at the top as well, which is great. But you don't get any advertising revenue from that. I'm not
Yeah.
convinced on the whole alphabet
Yeah.
story. But anyway, we're coming to the end of this wonderful podcast, and it has been really great to talk to you as always. I just thought I'd finish on a bit of a general note.
Mm.
What's the best advice anyone's ever given you? And that doesn't have to be investment advice, just the best advice anyone's ever given you.
Well, um,
Do you want me to tell you mine?
yes, please.
It's important. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice.
That is very good advice. Very good
Yeah.
advice. Once patience.
Oh,
That was it. Be patient. That's
oh
the best
I thought
advice.
I thought you were going to talk about a doctor then,
No, or a Guns N' Roses song. But no,
or a Guns N' Roses. Yeah,
but no.
exactly.
It's about just being patient, and in our market, in our world, everything's done so quickly. Sometimes you just sit back, breathe. When I'm talking about buying stocks, just sit back, breathe, let it flow. Patience sometimes will do you a lot better. So that's the best advice that I was given by a very learned broker. He said, don't rush in on day one and do everything. Just have some patience, and I think that's been good for me going forward.
Right, because this time of year we just get this deluge of results, and it would
Mm.
be so nice if we had, I guess, a little more time to go through them,
Yes,
rather than they come out at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and the conference call is at 10:30, 11 o'clock, and the robots are already trading it at 10 o'clock and
absolutely.
decimating it. Maybe the US has got it right with after hours. I guess they do trade after hours, but yeah,
Well, I,
it's
I do know that the
patience.
I do, yes, patience. I do know the ASX is moving to a 10 o'clock all open by midway through this year. We're,
Jeez,
we're all rallying around it, and Iris it's been known that Iris is charging us an arm and a leg to put the
yeah,
new systems in place. But it
yeah.
will be going to a flat option structure, not a tiered or set 10 1, 10 2, 10, staggered open. So we're
And
going to be
what's the advantage in that?
there's none for us. I don't know. There's none for us. I mean, Super Thursday. You got 26 companies reporting,
I know, it's mad.
and then everything opens at 10. Bang, we're on.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So
yeah.
it's going to give us less time. Is my point going
Well,
forward.
God, I even talked to someone the other day. They were talking about extending the ASX hours.
No, don't do that.
That was horror. I mean,
Yeah.
in the old days when I started on the ASX floor many years ago when I first came to Australia, that it closed. Well, the option market at least closed at lunchtime, 12:30.
Yeah.
Back
Very
at 2.
civilized. Very
Very
civilized.
gentleman's hours.
Absolutely.
It was fun days on the old floor of the Australian Stock Exchange and the London Stock Exchange as well.
Yeah.
Very much gentlemen's hours, but
Mm.
I think those days have unfortunately gone. There's not too many gentlemen around, apart from yourself, of course, Mr. Dawes,
Thank you.
who is one of the great gentlemen in the market. So, mate, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Always love your thoughts. Always love your ideas. Looking forward to catching up in person soon.
Yes.
Maybe we can have one of those client meetings
Yes, of
where
course.
we choose red or white, um, and
Chicken,
we
chicken or fish.
chicken or fish. Well, I'll always go the chicken. Not a big fish man myself. So really looking forward to catching up with you in person, Dorsey. And
Definitely.
thanks once again for your time. It's been an absolute delight.
Absolutely. Thank you, and great to be here.
Thanks, mate.
Hi, it's Marcus here. If you want to see what Marcus Today does, looking after portfolios, giving you daily ideas, running the very successful strategy portfolio, go to marcustoday.com.au and